Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. First, what evidence exists to support the claim that women are more selective in their sexual partners than men, and by how much? Okay, great question. Perhaps we should start by explaining what sexual selection theory is to our listeners, since most people associate evolution with concepts like the rule of the fittest, natural selection, and randomness, which, although it's oversimplified, is the evolution of adaptations due to their survival advantage or the survival advantage that accrued to the possessors, so things like fear of snakes, fear of heights, spiders, darkness, strangers, and so forth, food preferences, things that led to better survival. Which, is kind of implicit in the natural selection theory, where sexual selection is anything but random. Darwin established two causal pathways by which mating success could occur, and sexual selection deals with the development of traits that contribute to successful mating. One is same-sex competition, also known as intrasexual competition. The logic behind this is that whatever, he thought about it in terms of contest competition, where there was a physical battle like two stags locking horns in combat, with the winner gaining sexual access to the loser ambling off with a broken antler, dejected with low self-esteem, and probably needing psychotherapy. But the logic was whatever qualities led to success in these same-sex battles. Whether it be athleticism, strength, agility, cunning, or whatever those qualities got passed on in greater numbers due to the sexual access that the victors accrued, of qualities associated with losing basically bit the evolutionary dust, the second component. So that's intersexual competition, which actually the logic is more general than Darwin envisioned. So like in our species, as we were alluding to, often compete for position and status hierarchies, and so we can engage in intrasexual competition without engaging in this physical battle or contest competition, although I think that the contest competition was also part of human evolutionary history. With males, the other component process is of basically what Darwin called female choice, and the logic there is that whatever qualities, if there's some consensus about the qualities that are desired, that men possessing the desired qualities have a mating advantage. With regard to humans, sexual selection is by far a more interesting process that has undoubtedly taken place. But the twist there is that we have mutual mate choice, at least when it comes to long-term mating. Especially when it comes to long-term mating. They have preferentially chosen those lacking the desired qualities, who essentially become incels or involuntarily celibate. They get shunned, banished, or ignored. The sex that invests more in offspring tends to be cheesier, while the sex that invests less in offspring tends to be more competitive for access to those desirable members of the opposite sex. However, in long-term mating, we know from our reproductive biology that women have that mandatory 9-month pregnancy. So women can't say, look, I'm really busy with. And so, because the costs of making a poor mating decision are significantly higher for women than for males, women are at least in when it comes to sex, which is the cheesier sex, the higher investing sex. If men and women hook up and have sex for one night, they both wake up the next day and say, this was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Additionally, if the woman becomes pregnant, the male may not be interested in his offspring and may even have terrible genetics or a weak immune system. So that's a long-winded answer to your question about a sexual selection good. So let's go ahead, please go ahead. I was just gonna say that you asked about the evidence for females being cheesier, and they are choosy or primarily in the context of casual sex or short-term sex. So that's where the significant differences between the sexes can be found, and one of the well-known examples of this is the desire for sexual variety, which I describe in the book. Men have a much greater desire for sexual variety than do women, and because of this, they are more picky about who they have sex with. I'll just give you one example from a well-known study conducted by Elaine Hatfield and Russell Clark. They had male and female Confederates approach members of the other sex on a college campus and say, hello, I've been noticing around campus lately. I find you very attractive. Would you? They then asked them one of 3 questions. Would you go on a date with me tonight? Would you come back to my apartment with me? Would you have sex with me? Since it was a between groups design, I just recorded the percentage. Who agreed to these 3 requests, and of the women, around half agreed to go on a date with the guy, 6% agreed to go back to his apartment, and 0% accepted to have sex with him. Most women need a little more information, though. About the guy before they're willing to have sex of the men approached, also about 50 by the female confederate, about 50% agreed to go out on the date 69, agreed to go back to her apartment, and 7 to 5 agreed to have sex with her. And so if you talk about choosing a sama, are you willing to have sex with a total stranger who you've met for 30 seconds, a woman unwilling to, and in general a men very willing to, and this is a study that's been replicated now in several European studies. Very difficult to do this, as you might imagine, to get this by the ERVs or ethics committees in the United States. Anyway, I assume it's similar in Canada, or worse, but yeah, the kinds of studies we really want to do are more difficult to do nowadays. But it's been replicated in several Western European countries, and you can get women off of the 0%. You can get a few percent of the women saying yes, if the guy's really charming, if he's a Brad Pitt, or I don't know what the modern equivalent of Ryan Gosling, which is one of the or perhaps a famous rock star, a so. But that's one illustration of the answer to your question about what is the evidence for female choosiness. Now, the interesting thing here is I'll give you one more. So there's studies that ask what is the minimum percentile of intelligence that you would accept in a potential partner. So, and we explain percentiles to people so they understand. 99th percentile, 1st percentile, 50th, and so forth, and basically for things like a marriage partner, men and women are roughly equal. They both are very exact, and they say what they want, like say 65th, 70th percentile in intelligence, where the sex difference comes up in just a sex partner, a pure sex partner, with no investment. Women still maintain they still want, let's say 60th or 60 plus percentile in intelligence, whereas men drop to embarrassing level.